Hi, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of the Deeper podcast with Sophie Josefina. I am here today with Devin Fredericksen. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? Yeah. And Devin, as I understand it, is a coach who helps men harness their sexual power, embody healthy masculinity, and transform their lives. And I'm so excited to have Devin on here, especially lately I've been checking out Devin's Instagram and all of his posts are so powerful and so deep and so transformational. So I cannot wait to hear how this man sees the whole masculine, feminine dynamics in this world. So welcome, Devin.
Thanks so much, Sophie. It's great to be here.
Thank you. So for people who are newer to you, do you want to just tell us a little bit who you are and maybe what you're building or what you are creating right now?
I love that question. Yeah, I am born and raised on this beautiful island of Maui, and I'm a man of the earth. I am a protector of the sacred. I'm here to live embodied and to invite other humans back into that space because we've just been guided away from our own connection to ourselves and the earth. I'm really passionate about food and regenerative systems that support life to thrive. And I'm really passionate about, like you said, helping men reconnect to their creativity, their sexual power, because I believe when they heal their relationship with their sexuality, they reclaim and heal their relationship with the earth and the feminine inside and the feminine outside. And that's in relationship to, you said, the masculine and the feminine dynamics that we're experiencing everywhere. And what I'm creating right now, I'm creating deeper systems to support and to provide for myself and for my partner and what I want to create, which is a family. And I still am passionate, even though times are crazy. I still want to bring children into this world. And I believe that the people who want to create these new systems, who want to help regenerate the earth, if we say no to not having children, then people who may not be in that same space are still doing that. So I'm focusing on that, and I'm really focusing on creating deeper offerings to support wider groups of individuals. And so I've got a cookbook in the works. I've got a couple of online courses in the works, shorter ones, and that feels really good. And underneath all of that, I'm creating community. I'm helping people to set up communities. I'm helping people to transform their communities. I'm helping people to find land and start with all those aspects, because that's another thing I'm really passionate about.
Oh, that's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I'm sure you're familiar with David Data, and you just reminded me of this. It was one of my first insights in all this work with masculine and feminine, and he describes Hawaii as the place of the feminine.
It
is. So whenever I hear people speak about Hawaii, it's almost like you can see it on them that they're just living this beautiful, luscious life. Yeah. So I think related to that, my question maybe is so what has your journey what has your journey been with the feminine?
Well, for everyone, man or woman, masculine or feminine, journey starts with my mom. And my mom and my dad separated when I was around 3, and she moved off the island when I was 3.5. So my initial experience was that she's going to leave, that the feminine is going to leave me. And then my dad remarried. And when he was in a marriage with my brother's mom, she was exceptionally abusive to me. And so that showed me that I couldn't trust the feminine. And as I went along, I've always been a very sexual being. I believe all of us are very sexual. Some of us are just extremely cut off from it and shut down at a young age. So I wanted to kiss my girl friends, not my girlfriends, but like the friends of mine that were girls, and wanted to explore in those ways. And as I went along and went into high school, that story again, I just created the reflection that I was having of my internal experience, where my girlfriend, who I gave a promise ring to, ended up not honoring our agreements and cheating on me. And I say honoring our agreements because rather than trying to make it personal, like, oh, she cheated on me, she just didn't honor the agreement. And so then that sparked me to go into a path of celibacy. I learned about the Taoist sexual cultivation practices. I had this near-death experience, And in relationship to the feminine, that's why I went celibate, because I was not happy with my relationship. I saw the way that I was acting out of jealousy, with anger, and not knowing how to really handle my emotions. And so I went celibate for 1.5 years at 20, which was really challenging as well, because the sexual drive and being in college with all of these women around, like it came on even stronger when I went celibate. Like their desire was even more. And from that point forward, my relationship with feminine returned to the earth, and she just started to talk to me. She, through many different avenues, I was around the redwood trees in Northern California, and the trees and the animals and the land and the water just started to speak to me. So from that point forward, my awareness and connection with the feminine was to honor the earth. I get to honor the women around me. And by loving the women and honoring and respecting the women around me, I get to also give my love to the earth in that way.
This is so powerful. I feel this so much, because we always say, like, for a man to connect back to his masculine essence, like, go spend time in nature.
Yeah.
Go spend time in nature. You'll feel it again. You'll feel that, like, primal, the animal inside of you again. So what's like one of your biggest lessons maybe that nature taught you about the feminine in us? Yeah.
What happened was one experience in general is I was on a road trip with an old partner of mine, and we were driving up to this event called the Oregon Country Fair, which is a beautiful, inspiring event. And we stopped on the side of the road, and I was going to the bathroom, and I just stopped at this big redwood tree, and about a foot in front of my face in the tree is a heart-shaped hole where there used to be a branch. And the tree just told me to stop trying so hard. And the way that applied to me at that time was I had been embodying, been learning, really mastering the Taoist practices, the tantric practices of semen retention and being able to circulate the energy and all this. But it was coming from such a dogmatic place. I was still trying to, from the performance of like, I have to do this, rather than being in connection and like embodying the feminine to be able to feel what's going on in my body. And so at that moment, it really showed me to just stop using my mind so much, and to stop trying so much, and just to get into my body and to trust the process, to be with the sensation and the feeling, so I can navigate and let the mind harmonize with the body and not be the one that's in control, but be a part of the system. And so that's one. And then the other thing is that nature has taught me that life is resilient and life is powerful, and the feminine is so strong, and to really trust in that strength, to honor that, and to let myself be in awe of the beauty, because that's when I am in nature, I'm just in awe. And just like talking about that, I feel like this heavy, like rapturous pleasure just in my chest when I think about that and I look at the nature around me. And so how that's applied to women is being in awe of women, being in awe of their beauty, not in this lustful way, but in this appreciative, bowing, honoring way, and being able to embody that, so that way whoever I'm interacting with, I'm in that space.
So gorgeous. I really felt when you said the being dogmatic about things like ejaculation control. I could see that in a lot of like conscious men or new age men, that like they learn about these things. They're like, I have to do this now, right? And it still doesn't actually get them anywhere, because it's coming from that same energy of I have to do something. Yeah, exactly. Like there's so much contraction there. So could you explain a bit more about what the shift was, going from something dogmatic and rigid to hey, what's actually happening in my body?
I think so much of it has to do with the way that my whole world was shattered. Like I said, I had a near-death experience. I took 2.1 grams of MDMA. And for those of you who are listening, that's way too much. I overdosed. I completely overdosed. And thankfully, nature is what held me. Nature is what saved me. Just like feeling it right now. I haven't gotten emotional talking about it, but I just felt this flood of tears, just feeling feeling the gratitude for those trees around me at that time, because I completely left my body, all these things. I was so afraid. And so from that point forward, everything changed in my life, but I had no frame of reference. Everything that I had known was gone. All the old systems, the way that I see the world, I'm like, okay, that is there, but I left my body. I went out into space. I went to star systems, galaxies, and I had to find my way back to Earth. So like, this is not the only way. And I know that. And I know that there's so many other ways that are possible, and breaking beyond all the limitations. So then when that applied to my sexual practices and yoga and all these aspects that I started to bring in, I grasped onto them, because I had no way to talk to anyone around me. I started to hear people's thoughts. I started to see what was going to happen. And I'd talk to my friends, and everyone was like, "You're crazy, dude." And I couldn't talk to my family about it, couldn't talk to my friends about it. So in the yoga world and in the tantric and Taoist world, I was able to like find something I could grasp onto. Yeah. And so that was something for me to really help ground in all of the energy. And I went from such a dogmatic way before, and it just switched into that new system, because that was what like my subconscious was used to. And that's why I was there. And then what happened over time is really what happened is I got into my heart. I started doing a lot of meditation. I started doing a lot of work with Gay and Katie Hendricks, and a lot of work around conscious love and conscious relationship and compassionate communication and all these aspects of relating. And then also what happened is my work with permaculture. I started getting deeply involved with the earth. I started growing my own food. I started going only to farmers markets. I stopped eating all things that were made by people that were not using good ingredients. So that meant all restaurants were out of the game, because all restaurants, even high-end restaurants, are using canola oil and soybean oil and all these things that I'm like, I do not want to put that in my body. And so everything from that place changed. And as that happened, she started to soften me. My work being out on the land, my work with having to face myself when I'm harvesting or planting, whatever it was, walking around, like I had to learn how to be gentle. I had to learn how to be soft. And coming back home to my heart helped me, because that's what allowed me to listen to the trees and to the plants and to the birds and to the signs going on all around me. Because really, it's all here. Yeah. Life is just waiting for me and for all of us to just re-engage in our communication. When I talk to life, it completely responds to me. And the more that it's happened, that's just, that's what brings me joy. That's what brings me to life. And so that's basically as clearly as I can, I think, right now.
Yeah.
Express that journey.
Yeah, I'm really feeling you. I noticed, and I felt you when you said, what do I put in my body? What am I putting in my body? And I think a lot of men especially actually are so disconnected with how their body is receiving things. And then also, and like not only food wise, but also exercise wise, or porn, or whatever sexual habits you have. So I really felt that, like, what do I put into my body? Because I think to shift into, for instance, I don't like it when I eat things that use some sort of oil. You have to actually feel your body and also feel love for your own body, that like, hey, apparently I want to take better care of it.
Yeah.
And that's such a big shift. And I can see for a lot of men, like there's such a, I think one of my biggest, what really breaks my heart is that I see the one of the main energetics in the masculine right now is an energy of punishment, of you need to do better, you need to like get your shit together, you need to do this, you need to do that, or like even like the ejaculation control, you need to stop ejaculation because otherwise blah blah blah. And it's all punishing, it's all making you wrong, instead of, hey, how do I actually want to love my body? Can I feel my body? Can I feel how it's responding to nature? Can I feel what it needs? And this is something I don't like. I love that you're speaking into this, because honestly, I don't know a lot of men that can speak so actually in a way honoring their body. It's always about like, I have to work out 5 times a week. Yeah, but that's punishment. That's rigidity. Instead of like, hey, yeah, I have to, instead of like, what does my body need today? Can I tune into what it needs and can I offer it that? It's much more devotional than the rigidity. So I love, like, you feel like such an embodiment of what masculine support for your own system actually is.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for seeing. It's been a journey for sure. I played the
Yeah.
punishment for a long time.
Yeah.
And what I've just realized over time is the things that I do are like what you said, I'm listening to my body. There might be days where I'm like, okay, I really need to do a hard workout and I'm getting ready to go do it. I'm like, okay, I think I just need to go for a walk right now. And I really need to like maybe lay on a tree and just breathe. Or maybe I'm just going to go for a walk in the forest and now I want to climb trees and scream, clothes off and climb to the top of a 150-foot tree and scream. Like it's a conversation. And like you said at the beginning, masculine, feminine, like it's a dance between the two. It's not this one way and the other way and they are separate. They need each other. They don't exist without each other. And so from that punishment to conscious conversation or connection, whatever it may be, I still have a schedule. I still schedule things, but I'm not rigid with my schedule. Whereas in the past, I'd punish myself if I didn't follow the schedule. Now I look at the schedule. I'm like, okay, if I didn't do that yesterday, I'm going to make sure I do that today if it needs to get done today or whenever it needs to get done. And the schedule is that masculine. It's the container. And then the feminine gets to come in and feel my container. It gets to feel the depth of it. It gets to fill it up and be like, okay, is this it? And it's like, well, no, this container is not quite it. So like, let's shift it a little bit. But if I don't have the container, then the feminine in me doesn't feel safe to come out. She doesn't feel safe to express herself and be able to flow in that space. Because then it's just like, well, what are you doing? Like, I can't trust you because I don't know where you're going. I don't know what you're doing. And it has to do so much with me receiving. And like you said, I believe that men have a really challenging time receiving pleasure, whether that's through food, whether that's through sex or play, whether that's through criticism, whatever it may be. Being able to receive is actually one of the biggest things that's happened in my life. And I feel like I'm still learning how to receive. I feel like it's still something that is this unfolding journey because there's times where there's something that I've never experienced or witnessed or received before. And it's a whole new experience. And I have to really be present with that to let it in, to open to it rather than like, oh, I've already experienced this.
Yeah, I notice I'm curious about how this also relates to intimacy because the masculine way of being is very quite logical, can sometimes be rigid, and the same in intimacy. And a thing that, for instance, a lot of my male clients really struggle with is, for instance, like, I thought we were gonna, I don't know, be intimate tonight and it isn't happening, right? But she said we were gonna have date night tonight and now it isn't happening, and it really hurts. It's a real pain that it's not happening. It's not like an entitlement, like I want to have sex and it's not happening. It's like a genuine, like, whoa, I was counting on that to happen. I really wanted that to happen. And so, can you maybe give your point of view or how you move through that? Because I love this, like this perspective of like how you move with nature and how you feel and how you receive that and how you receive that pleasure. But yeah, what about when this is in an intimacy and she all of a sudden goes, actually, I don't want to.
I love that question so much. I'm going to share experience first. Recently, my partner, who is just blowing my life open and talk about like receiving, like every single day, it's a choice to choose her and to receive because it's so powerful. It's so amazing. It's beyond what my list of desires or dreams is. It's all of that and more. And so it's so beautiful. And I had a masculine structure, a boundary of I'm not going to engage sexually with you for at least like the first month and a half, 2 months. And I came back after about 2.5 months to Maui. And one night she told me, she was like, hey, I really want it to be a ceremony. I really want there to be a devotional aspect to it. Doesn't mean that we're going to take away any of the juiciness, any of the wild primal connection. Just like we want to have ceremony and ritual around our first time connecting sexually. And so she had asked for roses. So I came back with 111 roses, and I was so ready. I had chocolate, all these things, and we weren't intimate that night. And I was like going through my mind. I'm like, wait, I got roses, I got chocolate. She'd asked, like, I'm in a juicy space. I'm like touching her and rubbing her and massaging her. And she's just like not feeling it. And it was like, okay, how do I breathe? Like I have this expectation that I'm building up in my mind that's going out into the future. That's like all these things. And so much of the masculinity, so much of our power is in our presence. Yeah. And rather than expecting that to happen, like I need to be with myself. I need to turn my lens inward right now, and not from the punishment place of like I have to, but if I choose to turn my lens inward, I just need to know what I need. And really what I was wanting is connection.
Yeah.
I wasn't attached to sex. And I think like what you were talking about, what you were when you were telling me why you started this, I think that so many men expect or are taught or think that when it's time, we have to show up, we have to do our job, we have to perform, like we have to do all of this. But really, from my experience, that's not what the feminine wants. The feminine wants us to just meet her where she's at. And when I meet her, the flow is able to be there, that connection is able to be there, the intimacy that I was actually wanting came to me when I just sat with myself for a moment, did a little breath work, listened to my body, and my body just said, I want to be close.
Yeah. And
when I felt into myself, the sexual desire wasn't, like the desire was there, but the arousal wasn't. The arousal wasn't there for her for sure. And I think there's so much in general around sexuality and specifically sex, because we're not taught, both men and women aren't taught about this on a large scale. And so when it comes to it, if men are just carrying the story, the paradigm, I have to perform, I have to do, these are my checklists, then that's going to take us out. We're just going to be up in our mind and we're not going to be able to feel. And so when I have and work with men in that way, I just remind them, you got to listen. This is a conversation of listening. Like if you want something, you have to really listen. You have to really tune in. In the Taoist perspective, they say that sex starts about 48 hours before it actually happens. Oh. So if I want to engage sexually with my partner, what I will do, if I'm feeling that desire, I will go into my heart and just send out a prayer saying, okay, I'm planting the seed. I would really love to connect with her. If I have that 100 times a day and I have that desire, I still do it. It's not like I have to attach to it, but when I plant that seed and then release it and give that burden, don't carry any of it, don't hold any of it, but I just give it back to life, then I can refocus and be right here rather than like, oh my God, I need to get it. Like, And rather than like letting it take me over, I'm just channeling it and moving it and then creating whatever it is that I'm going to be doing rather than engaging sexually.
This is such a powerful embodiment and example of what it is when a man owns his sexual energy instead of being almost like a slave to it, like having no control over it. It's exactly the difference between I need to get her, which is a neediness. It's a grasping, which doesn't feel free, doesn't feel like the feminine can flow or whatever direction she wants to, because he has to have it. And there's something attached to it, because if he doesn't get it, he's going to get upset. She feels all of that. So she feels she's not free. And paradoxically, that's why she closes off often versus, hey, let me express to you that I have this deep longing for you. And here I am. And if you want it, I'm here. That's very different. So I've spoken into this before. Like I think we've almost misunderstood the game of seduction. Like the man the masculine gets to be this beautiful spark and gets to feel that he wants that, then actually holds the door open for her to step in.
Yeah.
And it's not this like, I have to convince you into something. Or when she moves out of it, that's personal to him. It's not. It's just she's just moving with wherever the wind is taking her, right? Yeah. Yeah. So beautiful. So because I know you work a lot with men and sexuality, what is it, or what have you seen is the main challenge for maybe conscious men in the realms of sexuality? Like what's their main challenge right now? Or their main pain, or their main, maybe even curiosity?
What I experienced, their main pain is pretty much what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Is the expectation of she's not engaging with me, or she doesn't want to, or she's not satisfied.
Yeah.
All of those things come back to the man's connection to himself.
Yes.
And there's so much of the external projection. Doesn't matter whether it's premature ejaculation, doesn't matter if it's anxiety or performance anxiety, doesn't matter if it's erectile dysfunction. All of those things come back to his connection with himself.
Yeah.
And again, it's like what you're talking about. If a man is in that space and inviting her in and expecting, and then taking it personally that she's not connecting with him, rather than witnessing her, and like I said, being in awe of her beauty and her chaos and the flow and whatever it is, and chaos not being a bad thing at all. Chaos just being like, she can go that way and then she can go all the way that way and wherever it is. And that expectation for her to be ready whenever he wants to, rather than the man claiming his own responsibility, owning his sexuality, and knowing how to direct that, knowing how to channel that. Yeah. And so again, there's such a connection with our mind, but it's not the way that we've been using the mind. The mind is a part of the body. The mind is here to help me channel my focus. Am I so focused? Do I really want to connect with my lover? But I'm on my phone and I'm like distracted because like she's right there, but like I get a text or this or that, or I'm not following through on my purpose and the things that I need to do because I have such a strong desire to want to connect with her sexually, but I'm not showing up in my own life. And so all of those things come back to how I'm using my mind, but not making the mind bad. And so it's just an integration. Heart, mind, cock, body, like they need to all be in communication. It's not like one is higher than the other. They're all necessary. And at times we need to call on one or the other, but it's the integration and that, like you said, the embodiment. So that way I can listen to what's going on with my body and then show up to my responsibilities, show up to my purpose. And then from my experience, she meets me in that invitation.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. 'Cause she's free.
Exactly.
She's free. Yeah. I read this beautiful post of yours. I have it here. For you to ravish and devour the feminine, you must first meet the darkest, deepest desires within yourself. And I love this topic. I love the topic of like the dark and the light masculine and the dark and the light feminine. So can you explain a little bit what you meant there with if you want to ravish your woman, you have to first meet the darkest, deepest desires in yourself. What do you mean there? Yeah.
So what I mean there, a couple of things. The deepest part is, can you feel your pain? Can you feel the depth of your sensation in your body? Because if I don't know the depth of my pain, if I don't know the depth of my shadows and what I don't see, and I don't do the work, I'm not going to be able to reach the continuous blasting open of pleasure ceilings of witnessing and being around the rapture of the feminine. So I have to be able to feel my pain to the fullest extent to be able to feel the amount of pleasure that comes from connecting with my partner. And the desire part, I have to know what I actually want. I have to be connected to it and not shame myself for my desire, not shame myself for what I want. Be connected to that, because when it comes to connecting with my partner, when it comes to connecting with the feminine, the man really needs to be able to move all that energy and not get consumed by it and like get so like, and then pop, like, there you go. Like you gotta, oh wow, like move it and not get stuck in that. And so If I get stuck in pain and I shut down and I disconnect, I'm not going to be able to let the pleasure come in. And this has to do with men having a challenging time of receiving pleasure. Yeah. And I see that on the same spectrum. I see pain and pleasure on the spectrum of stimulation. Yeah. And so how do I respond and meet that? And on the other side, the desire. If I'm not willing to, in a sense, have a hunter-like desire of pursuing something, not chasing after it, like, oh, I'm going to go chase this deer in the forest. Like, no, I'm going to track and hunt down and like use my smell and all of my sensuality, all these parts of myself, be able to get down in the dirt, be able to feel that primal desire inside and go after it with full committed, full fierce energy, no matter what, and be willing to kill or be willing to devour, be willing to just go after it no matter what. And that's what I'm referring to in that post.
Yeah. That's so, I feel that so much. I know for myself as the feminine, when I notice that a man isn't fully owning his dark, whatever that is, if it's his dark desire or his pain or his anger, I honestly feel very unsafe because I can notice it. I can notice that there is like, let's never discuss this. And then maybe all of a sudden it comes out during sex and you're like, wow, dude, like who are you? What, like, it's difficult to trust somebody. And so the feminine, even unconsciously, very much picks up on like, hey, there's something about you that you are not owning, that you don't want to face. And we will likely touch on it somewhere when we get intimate, and God knows what you're going to do. God knows what that's going to bring up in you. So it makes you unpredictable. It makes you like, maybe you're fine, but who knows? Maybe you just shut off and leave the room in the middle of it, right? Like, or whatever it is, or you start shaming yourself or us or whatever the situation. It makes somebody unpredictable. And so I very much feel that, like, I think the feminine, she feels safe to go into her own wildness, her own darkness, when she feels that he's also owning it and he's seen it, he's witnessed it, he's removed that layer of shame, because otherwise, exactly what you said is a beautiful, I love that one. Like, otherwise the popping happens because it's like, did not see that one coming. And like so I love that. I love that, that comparison. Yeah. I wrote another one here. You wrote, like, honestly, like your last few posts have been so fucking powerful. I just want to celebrate you for that. I was reading through them and constantly I was like, yeah. This is it. I think another one I'm very curious about is, I love working a bit with the archetypes in men, and one is the non-committal one, the always searching, the like, oh, there's always someone better, very cool, never get to really touch him. No, my work goes first. I think one I would also like, I have a personal experience in this of in one relationship a long time ago with somebody who had just gotten into like David data work and said, no, my purpose is first. And so he would never commit to me because his purpose had to be first. And so I would love your reflection on maybe what's happening there, because I also get a lot of messages actually from women that are relating with this type of masculine. And it's like, what do I get to ask for? How do I move with this energy?
Yeah. To me, it's going back to the dogmatic energies. It's going back to, okay, I read The Way of the Superior Man. I have to do this. I have to put my purpose first. She has to find me. Like, if I'm committed to my purpose, she's going to find me. But what that does is it makes me unavailable because I'm not open. I don't have any space for that. And I believe that there's so much pressure around men to perform, so much pressure to do, so much pressure to appear a certain way that we don't open ourselves to other experiences. So when I think I hear something that's going to help me be more embodied, going to help me be the best man that I can be, and underneath that, I actually do desire connection. I do desire companionship, whatever structure that looks like for whoever the individual is. They're cutting themselves off from that openness. And again, from the receptivity, from their capacity to receive, which is the feminine in them. And so when a man's in that space, when he thinks that my purpose is first, it's just the tunnel vision. Like I'm all for commitment. I'm all for being all the way in, but I'm not. For me, there's a certain sense of relaxation because I know that I'm always living on purpose, even if I'm not doing the work, even if I'm not sitting at my planner, sitting at my desk to do the work, on a business call, creating a project. Like if I'm with my partner, I'm still on purpose, because part of my purpose is to love the feminine, to honor the feminine, to uplift the feminine. It's not just to do what I'm here to do. There's so many other things. Like eating is a part of one's purpose, because if, like we were talking about, what I'm putting in, if I'm not aware of what I'm putting in my body, then I'm not really supporting my purpose, because everything's connected. There's no separation. And I think that that's what a lot of men deal with, is they're like, okay, well, purpose is here, relationships are here, food is here, working out's here, but it's like, actually they all enmesh and they're all connected because it's embodiment. And so when men come from that place of not committing, when men come from that place of, oh, this is my purpose, I think there's two things going on. One, they're stuck in the scarcity mentality.
Yes.
And it's not that the scarcity mentality and the abundance mentality are different. In my opinion, abundance just is. Infinite potential just is. And so whatever I focus on, I'm going to get an abundance of that back. So if I'm in scarcity or lack, I'm just going to get an abundance. So when it comes to relating with a female, if I am in that scarcity, I'm going to be like, well, I don't know where I'm going to get it. She may leave me. This is going to be the end. I don't know how to deal with the mystery. I don't know how to deal with the depth of uncertainty. So I'm going to not commit, because there might be something better. There might be another person that comes along, and I just need to take that opportunity, because I don't know when it's going to happen again. And so that's one side of it, is the scarcity. And then the other side is just being afraid to make the commitment, because they don't know what's going to happen. What happens if I commit to this woman and I find out that, oh my God, she's crazy? Well, that requires each man to break down those patterns, to break down those limiting stories, to recognize that he needs to know himself, like you're talking about. If he doesn't know his own craziness, if he doesn't know his own wildness, then sure, he's going to project it onto the feminine, because he's going to blame. He's going to be in fear. He's going to be afraid of her power, because he hasn't touched his own. He hasn't even tasted his own and knowing how to navigate that. And so I think it's a lot of fear of the unknown and a hurt from what's happened, and just that scarcity place.
Yeah. It's so powerful. I notice it's really nourishing for me to hear this part, because I notice the deeper and deeper I go into this work, and the more I really feel masculine energies and feel them in these stories, it makes that my heart opens more. I'm like, okay, I feel now where this is coming from. I feel what's moving this. I feel the pain that's underneath, instead of this blame and me being in my pain body. I'm like, oh, these men never want to commit, right? This is a very different thing. I'm like, okay, I see this. I see it. I get it. I get where this comes from. And I have this too. I have this just as much. And maybe I have it more around money, right? That I think I'm just going to lose money, or it's not there for me. It's not infinite. I have to fight for it. I always need to make sure I get it, right? It's the same kind of energetic of like, I don't trust that it's going to be there for me. Yeah. So thank you for bringing that in. I think the last part I would love to speak with you into is something we spoke about on our messages. It's a topic that's really dear to my heart right now. Is honestly, there's a lot of men around me deeply hurting. There's a lot of men around me deeply hurting. If it's my clients, my relationship, my friends, they're deeply hurting. They feel lonely, or they're going through loss, or whatever it is. There's pain. There's real serious pain going on. And I think I was always I was living through the idea that if I wanted to hold my men, or I wanted to be there for them, I either had to be mommy, which I feel a resistance towards, or I had to be my masculine, which is not what feels natural. And you and I were also talking about, like, as the feminine, when our man is hurting, how can we support him? And I would love what supports somebody like you? What feels really supportive?
When I'm hurting, the spaciousness is really nice. The ability to be in it and not have it be fixed. And I think the other thing is just tenderness, silence, breath, being able to lay on my partner's chest and just cry if I need to cry, or if I want to talk it out. Normally I will take some space so that way I can come back and just really feel it. And I think the biggest thing is the invitation to stay with the feeling rather than, oh gosh, like he's mad or he's sad, like I have to do something. Like you said, the mommy or the masculine fix it. And I think that comes from the societal views of men being told that they can't feel a certain way, or men being told that they're like to shut down their anger or whatever it may be, because when that happens, it creates almost this standoffish energy of like, don't go there ever. And so when a man's feeling that, it's like, oh, whoa, let's calm that down. Let's not let that be there. But really, I think there's two sides of it, really. One side, I think, is allowing that support and that tenderness to be there and just let him feel it, let me feel it. And really, like, what I always want, what I seem to always want, is just tenderness and that gentleness, because really I'm feeling so much, and something can take that away. Something can really distract that. And so that's where touch can even be interesting, because sometimes touch can take me out of what I'm feeling. So that's why the spaciousness is really nice, to just be asked, like, how can I support you right now, is one thing that is really nice. And then the other thing is just brotherhood. Yeah. Taking, and this is more going along the lines of rage and anger. Yeah. Because I think that sometimes it's maybe not necessarily beneficial to bring that to my partner, to bring it to sisters, because like, what is that going to show them? Like, can I trust this man? Like, I know his anger's there, but if I do that with my brothers, they can meet me. Yeah. Whereas if I like am going through a fit, and like, because I've seen this happen where men rage and it takes like 10 men to get one guy down, a huge dude who's like, I'm a tall, big guy, but like a guy who's taller and bigger than me, if I'm guiding a guy through a process and he just connects to a place and he goes into rage and I just see that fire in his eyes, it's like, okay, we need support for this. And if a man brings that to his partner, a sister, friend, whatever it may be, that can create a lot of fear of like, oh shit, like whoa, that's intense. And so I think one big piece that can help relieve the sisterhood, the femininity, is brotherhood. Yeah. And that's been something that's been so powerful for me to have a space where I can go to my brothers and I can bring whatever it is. So that way, when I come back to my partner, I can share with her underneath the anger and the rage what was there. So I can still show her my heart. It's not like I'm going to my brothers to keep it secret. I go to my brothers to process, to go underneath it, to connect to what's underneath the anger and the rage, which most of the times, from my experience, is sadness. Yeah. And so then I can bring that, and I can bring my authenticity and my transparency to her so she can feel me, so she can connect to me. But I don't bring a potential introduction of fear or scaring her into that space. Yeah. This is so, like, everything you spoke into just now is so important. And there's several points I want to like extra iterate. And I think one of them is that for a lot of men, their main emotional processing point is a woman. And there's nothing wrong with that per se, but also what you said, like, it's quite a big thing to bring your anger or your frustration or that to the feminine body, right? Because the feminine is always checking whether she's physically safe around you. So when you go into your full expression of that, which is totally welcome, I welcome it, I really do, but it's a lot for her, right? It's a lot for her. And to feel that is maybe much more better supported and held by a group of men. And this is also why I think it's so insanely vital to have men's groups and the work that you do with Sacred Sons, for instance, to have these works where men can come together and take up the space, right? Yeah. Go into your fullest expression of anger and feel that,
You know, you're taken care of. It's okay. It's held, instead of like, don't get too angry. Don't get too angry. Don't put your physical force there. Don't, right? Like, instead of having to suppress it. And the same is actually for the feminine. Like, me in my fullest emotional expression is also a lot to receive. It's a lot to receive when I'm in the fullness of that. That's a lot to receive. So like, one of the agreements that my partner and I have is actually that in the first peak, in the first wave, in the trigger, in the bigness, to process that with our sisters, for me, or him with his brothers, and then come to each other. Exactly what you spoke about. Because then if you are going through anger, there's actually sadness underneath, there's vulnerability somewhere, but you have to move through that anger first. But to do that with the bodies and the energy that can actually support you in that, and to come back to her when your heart's there, and your vulnerability, and that feel like, for me, it's felt so healthy and so supportive, because also I'm not his, I don't have to like take care of him in the peak. There is a different system. I'm not his coach. I'm not his therapist. I'm his partner. And that just makes it feel like we are two sovereign adults that have tools to take care of ourselves, and we can come together to share in the harvest, rather than a need because we need to take care of each other. So I think this is such a powerful, powerful thing you spoke about. And I noticed I was really moved when you spoke about the gentleness and the softness, and the, you know, also the touch, right? To really bring that in, and to not needing to fix each other, but to actually like, yeah, I was thinking like rest in her softness and something like that, right? Yeah.
Like she'll, my sweetheart will just like say, lay down, and like I'll lay down in her lap, and like she'll just stroke my head, or I'll lay on her chest, and I do the same for her. And there's times where that's necessary, and there's times where we both need space, like you're talking about with you and your partner. And so much of it comes back to, again, to embodiment. Like, the more I get to know myself, I know, like, wow, like you said, this is the rise of that anger. Babe, I'm going to take a break. And whether I go on a walk, scream, whatever it is, I'm going to go do that. And I'm owning my responsibility to care for myself. I'm not projecting onto my partner, mommy, therapist, healer, fixer, whatever it is. Like, I think that's a big piece of it too, is a lot of men and women are doing that. They're playing those games rather than, you're my lover, I choose you. And so I'm choosing to bring this to you, and not placing every single expectation on each other, and that pressure.
Yeah. And also I want to mention one last part. I'm curious about your perspective on that. I noticed for me a very big shift happened when I didn't do the emotional work for the men around me anymore, because it was part of almost the cultural narrative. It felt like for me to speak to the men around me, like, oh, what are you feeling? I noticed something just happened. I could see that moved you. I could see that made you insecure, whatever, right? Like, I was doing the emotional decoding for them. And the moment I stopped doing that, and I gave the men in my life just the trust that they've got themselves, and that they will come to me when they need me, or they want to talk about it, or there's something happening, that I'm there. Everything shifted, because I wasn't in a savior role anymore. I wasn't doing their own emotional work. I'm literally trusting them with their emotional stuff. And I noticed that was such a big shift, because we have this story that men aren't good with their emotions. It's not true. It's not true. It's not true at all. And the more I work with men, the more I actually see they have a deep emotional experience, that we call it something different. They feel frustrated, or they feel horny, whatever it is, but there's lots of emotion.
There's so much emotion that I think that they don't know how to navigate it. And with that story, men aren't good with their emotions. That's what men tell me. They're like, I just don't know. And I'm like, bro, you just told me everything you're feeling, but then you end it with, well, I don't know. I'm like, that's the story. Just let's take away the I don't know, and just listen to everything that you just told me. And there's times where I'm like, oh, geez, I wish I was listening to a woman right now, because she's not going to keep on rambling on about all of her emotions. Like, there's times where that happens with men, where I'm like, oh, this dude's talking for like 15 minutes. I'm like, oh God, like it's a beautiful thing, because I think that really there's just not that much space for men to talk about their emotions and their feelings with men. Like you're talking about, like, they're so used to talking about with women, and this being this interesting dynamic where if men aren't clear, they're like, is there a potential of like being able to get something from this? And like they're navigating so many things, rather than with a guy, it's just like, this is how I'm feeling, bro. Okay, well, like, let's move through that. What is it? How can we process that? Like, what's going on here? Rather than the feminine interaction, which is whether they're attracted to her or not, the dynamic of sexual energy just being there is so different versus with a brother. And for me, at least with my brothers. So it's so powerful. And I think that that's part of the work that both you and I are doing with men, is helping them remember, like, you have all of it inside of you. Your capacity to feel, your capacity to move through it, your capacity to let it in is all there.
Yeah.
Just, you got to feel it. You just got to welcome it in and know that it's right there. You have it. And so feel like we're just dismantling and taking away the layers of what men aren't supposed to be and helping them step into who they are.
Remembering and owning, like, you don't have to become like the feminine. We don't want you to. We don't want you to.
The feminine and the masculine don't want that.
No, like, we really don't want that. And that's, I think, how a lot of conversations are happening. And then also, like, men be in your heart. Yeah, I don't want you to be in your heart the way I am. You don't need to, right? It's a very different embodiment for the masculine to find his place in his heart. Mm-hmm. Then when I'm in it, it's an ocean that's flowing everywhere. That's a very different way of going into that heart. So thank you so much, Devin. This is such a beautiful, beautiful conversation. And notice I'm so inspired by really how you speak actually about nature and your deep, deep connection to nature. And I think that will resonate with a lot of men, because they can feel that. They feel that viscerally. They feel that somatically, like, you know, when you're surfing or whatever it is, you're hiking or you're climbing a tree, like, there is a reverence there is a pleasure there is challenge, and to take that into like you're relating, I think is so beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm feeling super juiced up for this day. It's been cloudy and the sun clearing up. I can see the clouds are opening and the sunlight shining through. So I'm excited to play, and I know it's nighttime for you.
It's very much nighttime, but I'm a night owl. I like being in the evening. Hey, so if people would like to learn more about you or work with you, where's the best place to find you, and what have you got going on?
Instagram is a great spot. I do a lot of work through that place. You can also find me on my website, my name, devinfredericksen.com. I actually have the next round of Sovereign and Shameless, the 12-week online course that I have, starting in a few days. So if any of you guys are listening to this and you feel really inspired, we have a few more spots. So those are the two best places really to find me, on Instagram and my website, and we'll go from there.
Tell me more about Sovereign and Shameless. That sounds yummy.
Yes. It's a 12-week transformational journey that's focused around helping men reclaim their sexuality and live a life of power, passion, purpose, and play. And helping them with the sexual vitality practices, helping men get in their body and be open and address tightness or tension wherever it may be. Because if we're not open, then we're not going to be able to feel the energy move in our body. We address relationship and communication. We go through food and nutrition as well, and breath work. And then lastly, earth connection. So those are like the 5 pillars of the program. And it's been really, really transformative and powerful. So
that sounds so delicious. I'm excited for the men joining.
The piece of it, Sovereign and Shameless, the sovereign piece is recognizing that as a man, I have a choice. I have a choice if I want to release my seed and ejaculate. I have a choice if I want to retain that energy and circulate it. I have a choice what I want to put in my body. I have a choice of who I want to relate with. I have a choice of what my standards are, and I have a choice to actually honor them. So that's the sovereign side. And then the shameless side is breaking through the shame, the repression, the doubt, the trauma around sexuality, around expression, around anger, around their embodiment, and helping them to step back into that purposeful embodiment and being the man that they want to be.
Devin, I feel this so much. Oh yes, for anybody who feels that too, do check out Devin and check out his website. And thank you so much, brother, for being here, for letting us feel you and letting us learn from your wisdom. Thank you. I really
Thank you
appreciate
so
that.
much. Mahalo.
Mahalo.